me at Cello, Cello. You had me at Cello. You had me at Cello. Oh, you had me at Cello. Hi, everybody. 5 o'clock on a Friday, time for another episode of Cello Chat. This time with guest Marc Christian, all the way from Southern California. Mark, how are you doing today?
Not bad. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a lovely fall so far. I know it has been there as well.
Yeah, it's been awesome here.
Excellent. Well, I'm really looking forward to visiting with you. There are a number of things, as you probably know, over the past, I think it's been more than 20 years, but somehow it seemed like in the past 20-ish, there's been more of a push in universities to make young musicians, like performance majors, think entrepreneurially.
Yes,
No.
definitely. Yeah.
And so your website is such a model, in my opinion, in terms of putting yourself in the shoes of the people who would be looking at it, and trying to think, how can I grab them right away and make them think they need to go, oh yeah, this is who we want. So I mean there's that end of things. And then there's also the whole how do you get things going to be your own one-man band,
Mhm.
and the whole outdoor performance thing and all that. But before I get ahead of myself, I'm really curious, how did you get started on the cello in the first place, and what's your educational background?
So I started, I think I was probably like 8 or 9 years old, I think. My older brother was playing viola. He like just started, and my younger sister was playing violin. I was playing drums at the time, drums and piano actually. Uh,
Nice.
to kind of complete the violin viola trio was to add a cellist, So, we're all super young. I didn't even know what a cello was at the time, but my dad asked me if I wanted to play it. By that age, I was already so obsessed with music, though, and so obsessed with being an instrumentalist that I was like, yeah, let's do it. And he showed me some Yo-Yo Ma recordings, and I thought it was cool, but I just love to play instruments. So I just jumped on it right away, and then kind of fell in love with it then. So I grew up playing in a trio with my older brother, younger sister. We did like string ensembles locally. Um, I did all throughout high school. Then I ended up going to college at Cal State Northridge. I majored in cello performance there. So I did that whole thing. Um, and then I guess I really started my career in music after that. So after I was done with school, I was living in Los Angeles County, in Hollywood and in the South Bay, and I taught music for a while for about 10 years. I I did a bunch of recording sessions for people, for different singer-songwriters, for different bands. I worked all my way up all the way to doing some like Grammy work. I did some movie guide award shows. I played with H.E.R. and Us the Duo and DJ Deorro and Chrissy Metz and a bunch of celebrity stuff, which was really fun. And about 5 years ago, I started my special events business, and this is the entrepreneurial part of it, where because before this, I was always contracted through different contractors, but 5 years ago, I started doing it myself. I started contracting myself, putting myself out there, like you're saying, and yeah, I started this business. So I do tons of like weddings and corporate and different special events. So I'm pretty much full time with that now.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. And let's see, it looks like you play on both. You have the electric cello there in the background, but you also have the carbon fiber.
Yeah, so I have three. So I have or
All right.
four. I have two acoustic wood cellos somewhere in this room, and then I have my carbon fiber and my electric. And my electric's the most recent one. I kind of I've mostly been gigging with that pretty much exclusively for the past year or so.
All right. All right. Yeah, they have different pluses and minuses, kind of, don't they?
Definitely. I mean, nothing really beats an acoustic wood cello. That's where you get like that warm, organic sound everyone loves. However, for me, I'm playing outdoors so often now. So, wood shells get ruined with the heat or humidity and all that.
Yeah.
So I bought a carbon fiber for that reason. And the carbon fiber is great. And we go into that. It's a whole different sound than a wood cello. But I was having some feedback issues with it. So I went to electric. And then this is, I could go deep into like every single one of these, but the electric is like its whole nother thing where like you really have to focus on sound design and you have to get certain pedals. Like you don't want to just plug it in dry, you know. It can sound okay, but like you really want to. There's so much room for just honing in and dialing in tone. So it's pretty fun.
Interesting, interesting. All right. So to the special event idea, I think just kind of for the people watching the obviously I can tell these sorts of things to my students in the studio, but I know there are a number of young people who watch this, and I think it's easy to underestimate. I mean, like, particularly weddings are incredibly special to people. And I like,
Yeah.
from a standpoint of us making a living, they're
Mhm.
willing to spend a fair amount of money if,
Yeah.
especially if it's just the exact touch that they wanted. I mean, to get something that just makes it magical for
Yeah.
them. I think
Yeah.
it's uh, great idea. It's like, okay, there is a need here for music to add as much of a special touch as the flowers do, as the photographer does, or what have you.
Exactly. I mean, people are, I didn't even realize this until I got married a few years ago. But people spend like a year or sometimes more planning a wedding. So they really go all out with it, with every single vendor, all the flowers, like you're saying, every single detail. And it is a really lucrative industry to be in. A lot of musicians don't think it is. They think like, oh, when you get paid, a couple $100 here and there, and that could be the case if you're not giving it your all. But like if you really hone in and make it your focus, like I did, there's so much room for growth. Like I was saying before, I did a bunch of celebrity stuff in LA when I was living there, and I mean, the wedding business is more lucrative than all that, even doing celebrity work.
Wow, wow, yeah. So I'm curious. I have a number of questions that come to mind. Like, for example, it's very competitive. There's a lot of not just cellists, string players. There's a lot of musicians in general in your area. Did you find, like, have you always had a bit of an entrepreneurial streak, or did you go and design your business the way you did, kind of out of necessity, because that's the only way you were going to get the gigs?
Kind of both. I would say I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, although I didn't really like what do you call it? I didn't take action on it till about 5, 6 years ago or so, and it was out of necessity. So it was during when COVID happened and everything was locked down. Before that, most of my income was coming from teaching, gig here and there from different contractors. When everything opened up, I was still doing the same thing, but then there was like major inflation, as we all know. So the rates that contractors were paying their players wasn't it wasn't what I wanted or needed, to make a good living off it. So I just kind of took out the middleman. I started learning how to book myself and learning how to present myself and do the whole thing, the whole back end part of it. And
Sure.
yeah, and that's when it really took off. But it's been a long, learning curve, and I'm still learning a lot. So I,
Sure. Right.
the whole entrepreneurial thing is like it's like learning your instrument. It's like playing cello. You're not done after a few years. Like it's a lifelong thing. So that's kind of the journey I'm on right now.
Yeah, I have to admit, so many things I like about musicians, and one of them is we so often have the attitude of lifelong learners. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
not arrived and then you just no more to do. No, 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 no. There's always,
yeah. It never ends.
yeah. Okay, so now here's a question that I may need to break into two different questions. I'm very curious about it. Again, I know. Like from the standpoint of a number of my students, they are interested in the idea of being a composer, but some of them are just a little bit like, okay, well, am I good enough? Or, just what does that involve? I imagine, first of all, that you are both a composer and an arranger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because in part, a number of these weddings or any special event, but particularly the weddings, I would think, they come in going, and I want to walk down the aisle to this piece, and so now it's up to you to go, okay, no, I can make that work. I can create an arrangement out of it. But from the standpoint of both the composing and the arranging, I guess I'll make it into separate questions.
Yeah.
Was that something that you had an interest in all along, or how did that initially come about?
I've always had interest in composing, so actually when I first composed my when I composed my first song, I was probably 19 years old, and
Hmm.
that's when I think I really, really fell in love with music because I found my voice that way. I wrote some cello solos back then. I still write some now, but that was the first time I did it, and yeah, so it's that composition, like love has always been there.
All right, all right. Um, do you find that, like, having had a background that was not just one instrument, I mean, just even like a drum background, and do you also play guitar and keyboard?
I play drums and piano and cello.
Okay.
Yes.
So, again, I'm trying to slightly advocate to students watching that, like, just even having some good keyboard chops is great for helping you think of.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in school, I was already playing piano. I had piano lessons for years before I went to college. But even in college, every single music student had to do some sort of piano class. They had to learn at least a little bit of it. And I think piano in particular is probably the best for composition. I would say because you just see all the notes laid out, and and it could be you could do harmony and melody at the same time. Where cello you could kind of do that, but not as easily as piano. So yeah, I feel like every instrument has their own perspective you learn from it. Piano gives you like this broad range of melody and harmony put together, Cello, I feel like it really helped me understand tone and expression. Drums, rhythm and obviously rhythm and feel and all that. So it's like the more instruments you play, you kind of you get like a broader perspective, and your writing comes out different because of it and better, I think.
Nice. Well, and then, like, right there, I'm glad you mentioned tone. You have quite a few videos, not only on your website but on YouTube. And the thing that strikes me the most about them is the quality of your sound. That it sounds like that you're making sure that that tone is always ear candy, kind of,
Yeah.
as it were. And that comes out a degree in the compositions of yours that I listen to as well. Just the beauty of the sound itself is trying to be highlighted in a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean that's what I love the most about cello. Is you have so much control over the tone. Like I said, I play piano too, and you could mess with tone on piano for sure. With how you strike the keys, but it's not like cello. I mean, a single note with cello, as you know, it's just it could have so much expression, so much beauty. Or none. You can make it like flat too. So there's just a lot of options with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Food for thought there too. Okay, all right. So I want to go another thing that I want to ask about with your website that immediately caught me. Like, again, when I'm thinking, I don't know how many websites I've seen over the years by either it could be a student who wants me to look at, as they've gone out in the world, or it can just be somebody that you know and you look at their website, and a lot of them are pretty dry, just in
Mhm.
terms of, just like, they think, okay, people just want the facts and they want it concise. But like in yours, even the description of, okay, when the guests arrive, here's what they're experiencing.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
And then as this starts to happen, here's what happens. And you I mean, I don't know, I was just really impressed with the degree to which I kind of thought, I if I were to create a website like this, I would totally model it after, again, thinking about describing what it is going to feel like to them rather than just kind of trying to be businesslike.
Yeah, 100%. You want to paint the picture for your clients. And I think so this is something I've learned, in the past few years is people can't imagine what you don't show them for the most part, especially with music, So like with the content I put out, if I'm targeting couples that are engaged and going to get married, I need to put out video content of me at a wedding venue specifically. I used to just, film videos in my studio, and it'll be the same like wedding songs and all that. But even that, like being filmed in a room opposed to being filmed at a wedding venue. Like people have a hard time imagining you, in that room, transferring to their wedding venue. You need to show them exactly what it looks like, and through through your words, like explain exactly what that feels like too. You paint the picture of the whole experience rather than just this is how much it costs. These are my rates. You really want to paint that picture and give them that experience like through video and through your wording and all that.
Yeah, yeah, I think you did a really great job. And then one other thing that I want to talk about that's on your website, when I use it as a segue to talk about your musical life outside of your
Yeah.
business, is the way that you talk about how much music means to you. I mean, I think, when I'm on a soapbox, one of the things I'm always thinking is that as musicians, we're always ambassadors, not just for the cello, but for music as a whole.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a degree to which the extent that live classical music stays of value to people can certainly be influenced in the positive by us being verbal champions of it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, can I interest you in talking a bit about just how significant music is to you?
Yeah, I mean, from an early age, I feel like it just saved my life in a lot of ways, I grew up a very, I'm still pretty introverted, but I grew up a very shy kid. I didn't have very many friends. I didn't speak to people very much. I always, observed a lot, but my socially, I just wasn't extroverted. I didn't put myself out there at all. So music, especially when started playing cello specifically, it really gave me a way to express myself. Then even the music I listen to, listen to a lot of like rock and stuff, and I still do back in the day. But there's like a whole culture that went along with it, of all these like black sheep that were into this music, So it gave like a home to be in. Lyrics like kind of gave you words that you didn't have. Playing my music was like my way of speaking, my way of expressing myself, and everyone needs that, And people do it in different ways, but my way was music, so it was everything to me, and it still is. So it was really healing for me. It was very, yeah, it was very healing. It was very, how to explain it? It was just, it was essential, I think,
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable how powerful it is. I
It
mean, it's
is.
just vibrations in the air, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. And also just, doing something and being good at it, like it keeps you going, Uh,
Yeah,
and then like, later on as I got better at music, um, I'm able to really like move people through it as well, which I have so many stories about that, but like you just realize like how powerful it is for you as a musician, but your audience as well. And at this point I kind of dedicate my life to that, to serving people through music now.
yeah, yeah, here. That's awesome. Okay, so the another question, your musical life
Yeah.
is broad. One of the things that I encountered once with a student, just kind of as far as this idea of, okay, you can have your tracks that are on, being played through the amp. You just kind of be a self-sufficient one-man band and have a big repertoire. But I don't remember how it was said, but it's something about like, after a while, am I going to lose the connection with
Yep.
the magic of playing with other people. You know, like Lynn Harrell has a saying on one of the, I guess it was a Smithsonian interview about how incredibly intimate of a connection it is to play with other people. But
Yeah.
you play with a lot of other people as well,
Yeah.
and it's by design, right? Do you find
Yeah.
that's intentional to keep that sort of connection?
You definitely need it. I mean, there's times where I'll be because mostly what I do is solo as far as like for my work in my business. So I am playing with like a lot of accompaniment tracks. But I noticed that if I don't play with other people for a while, it feels awkward too after a while. You know what I mean? You're so used to like how like the tracks are, the timing and the phrasing of these specific tracks. And then you play with someone else, then timing phrasing is a little bit different. And like you lose that communication skill between, two musicians or more. So it is important to keep playing with other people. I just did an event yesterday with a violinist friend of mine, and we haven't played together in a while. And it sounded good and everything, but yeah, it did feel it felt a little bit awkward at first for the first like 10, 15 minutes or so. Yeah, there's a skill to playing with other people for sure, as like cueing each other, making sure
Yes.
you're on the same kind of wavelength while you're playing the same interpretation of the song. There's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
if you don't do it, I recommend, even if you don't gig that way, I recommend getting together with other musicians and playing together too. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, I love that. The sense of, oh, we didn't plan on playing it this way, but I'm going to go with it and make it sound like we intended this.
exactly, yeah. Yeah.
All right, very nice. So then one other question too about your region. I think in some ways there's pluses and minuses in being an area where the musical scene is huge. I mean, there's lots of opportunities, but there's tons of competition as well. I mean, like I guess a song about New York, if I can make it there, but in your area, I mean, the total density of musicians is every bit as high.
There's a lot.
So like even the bands that you've gotten to play with and the studio work that you've done, was that is kind of a similar question to some of the earlier ones. Did that somewhat come your way? Did opportunity come knocking on your door because you're in the area and you're a good cellist, or did you have to proactively pursue that?
It's both, so for the LA scene, the Hollywood scene, you kind of have to be living in that area to if you want to be in that scene. You can't be like even like being an hour outside of it. It's harder to break into it. So I was living in Hollywood and I was living in Los Angeles for 10 years, and that's when I did so much LA work, and that's when I did the Grammy work and all that. When I moved, right now I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of it, and
Mm,
even then there's like a disconnect. You kind of seem to be around the people working in that industry. So there's that. But it's highly competitive. Like you said, there's so many musicians here, and there's so many really, really good musicians here too, which you could think of that as a disadvantage because it might be oversaturated in some ways. However, you do gain a competitive edge because you need to stand out because there's so many people. Luckily for cello, there isn't like it's not as popular as like drums or guitar or something. There's more drummers and guitarists than there are cellists for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But
Singers, yeah.
exactly, yeah. So, but even with cellists and string players, there's still a lot of them, and there's a lot of really good ones too. So you have to find a way to stand out. Whether it's I mean, your playing has to be really good. Obviously, you have to keep working your craft, but then like find some sort of what do you call it? Some sort of unique way you play or present yourself,
Yeah.
um or be very social. There's you have to kind of find a niche in your playing, I think, because people specialize in different things. In Los Angeles, there's a lot of jazz fusion musicians.
Mm,
Uh, so like if you're gonna break into that scene, you have to be good at that specifically, right? Or like
mm.
my sound is more cinematic, I guess. So like that's what I'll be hired for. And there's some like maybe bluegrass players or something. So you kind of find like where your natural sound is and what you're naturally good at, and kind of push with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Wow, this has been a lot of fun. But okay, what? projects or performances do you have coming up yet in 2025 or 2026?
Well, I'm pretty much booked for the rest of the year doing, tons of weddings, a bunch of corporate stuff. I'm doing this one interesting project right now. It's about to end. Every year I do this. I play this resort called the Golden Door, and this is like a very high-end kind of exclusive resort where people pay a lot of money to be there, and they're there for a week at a time. So during that week, there's like different activities for them to do. And one of the things that I'm a part of is there's a theater in this resort. It's a 360 degrees theater. And I'm playing in the middle of it. And in that theater, there's like images of like nature being projected. And the whole experience is meant to be kind of this nervous system reset for their clients. It's in the realm of health and wellness, I would say.
Wow.
But I wrote this 30-minute performance for it. So it's like me playing with all these images around, and I compose the music to a film essentially. So it's like timed out with with the images, and it's basically scoring a film for them, but playing it live. So I've been doing that for a couple months, and that's about to end. But I do that every year, and that's probably one of my favorite events I play.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool. And now I got to follow up that one too, if I may. The are you, I mean, I know there are composers who, for example, constantly want to go back and revisit and revise something.
Yeah.
Like that half an hour composition. What for you, was that something that just kind of pretty much what came to mind? You're happy with the first time, or how does your revising process work?
If I had infinite time, I would never finish anything because
Right.
it's how when you compose. It's like I heard this quote. I don't know who said it, but it said something like, "Art is never finished; it's just abandoned." And that's how I feel about writing music, where you could always revise it. And you're never like completely satisfied with it. You keep going back. But for this particular project, and I think this is valuable. So this project had a strong deadline. I had to write the 30 minutes of music in about like a week and a half, 2 weeks or so.
Ooh.
So I spent about 40 hours composing it, and then like a long time after that, just memorizing the cello part and practicing it. But because of that deadline, that kind of like forced me to finish it. And there's some things that I weren't like completely satisfied with, but then you kind of just make it work later on.
Yeah.
Um, so for me specifically, that's like the way I get things done. I need to have that hard deadline, especially with composition, because like I said, you could just keep going back and editing it and never finish it, or it never release anything. So having that deadline and being accountable, from other people really helps finish things like that.
Yeah, yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, outstanding. Well, thanks so much, Mark. I can't wait to hear my students' reactions to this, and it's I think very valuable, especially for youngsters who are, young performance majors. Like, what exactly would that be like? We try to describe what that's like, but just grabbing the bull by the horns and making it happen. You've
Yeah.
really succeeded. That's great.
Yeah, and I'll say for young people too, it's like, most of the young people are on social media, and it's that's a huge, huge tool for music. I feel like my whole career's not based off that, but like it does give me so much work. I mean, I'm 100% freelance, and I'm booked a lot, and the social media really helps. So I would encourage, young students to find the niche they want to work in and keep making content and just putting out consistently. And over time, it really, really helps. Yeah.
Tremendous. All right. Well, thanks again. This is great. And to those of you out there, have a good week, and we'll meet back up the same time next Friday. Take care.
You had me at jello.